All right, unleash the 4-cylinder power. Wow, that's slow. The Ford Ranger, it's like stepping back in time because, well, in a lot of ways it is. I think this is one of the best compact trucks ever built. And today I get a chance to take a look at it, get it on the road, and tell you my opinions of it. So welcome back to All Cars, y'all. I'm John, and I have a confession for you first off. I never really liked these when they were new. I respected them, but I never really liked them. I thought they were cheap and gritty and kind of icky. But looking back, I really miss this truck specifically and trucks like it. And although the Maverick kind of fills that need for a smaller truck, it's actually substantially bigger than this. So I'm super excited to look at this, and I miss trucks like this. And it's nice to take a fresh look at it from today's eyes. Now this is a 98, has over 200,000 miles on it. It's got the base 4-cylinder, it's got an automatic transmission, and it sounds like, talking to the owner, almost every piece of it has been touched. He's never had a problem with it. It just has needed a lot of things kind of fixed and repaired over the time, brake lines replaced, things like that as it's aged. And it looks fantastic. Now, obviously, this is not the original paint color. He said it was a kind of faded, mottled red or something like that. It's got floor mats in there, seat covers. Of course, this is, the rims are not standard, but you still get the essence of what one of those old-fashioned compact pickup trucks is. And I'm excited to take it out and, well, see what it's actually like. All right, so anytime I look at a used car, I always ask myself two questions. The first is, would I recommend it to others? Would I be proud to recommend this to somebody else to buy? And number two is, would I be proud to own one? Would I want one sitting in my driveway? I'm going to answer those two questions at the end. Now, the Ranger has a cool story because this truck was on sale for 3 generations for 29 years. Before this, Ford had a small pickup truck. They actually went and got something from Mazda. And after Ford designed the Ranger, Mazda started selling it as their own pickup truck. And finally, in 2011, they canceled this, declining sales. I found out they actually were designing the replacement, and, well, the CEO just canceled the whole project, but they developed it overseas. And so after an 8-year absence, the Ranger came back in the current version based on that international platform. But it got substantially bigger. Trucks haven't been this right-sized in a long time. And you go back into the 80s, and these were legitimate options relative to like an economy car. You could pick up a truck relatively affordably. You had extended cabs. You had this back here. They had 4-cylinder engines. They were pretty economical overall. But now trucks are so big and so expensive and so laden with technology, this feels almost prehistoric, but it's only 24 years old now. I mean, it's 98. It's not ancient. This isn't a 60s truck, guys. But let's take a look at the front and the side and then get inside and take a look. All right, so down the side, above this pinstriping, you get a really nice body line that continues almost perfectly horizontal all the way back and sits right above the door handle. I think this works really, really well. Of course, they put the gas on the right side as God intended, and the proportions are really well. They did have an extended cab version. They never had a 4-door version, and it's worth mentioning, when this thing came out, this was modified to be the first electric vehicle that Ford sold in North America. They had a battery-powered version of this. It had the 4-wheel drive underpinnings, but it was only rear-wheel drive. It's also worth noting, I said earlier this thing was canceled in 2011. That's not exactly true. It was not sold after 2011 to retail customers like you and me, but in 2012 they did have a short run for fleet customers. The very last Ranger produced in the factory, before the whole factory closed down, was a white extended cab for Terminix. Up front, I kind of like what they did here. I like the grille. They tried to really go to what the F-150 was doing. You can see it's divided into the 3 individual sections here. Big steel bumper, clear headlights, running lights underneath. The problem is the details around this car kind of showed, well, 90s haphazard Ford. Look at the gap right here on the hood. I can actually stick my hand in here. Maybe it's to improve airflow, but if you see right here, there's actually a difference between the amber light and the headlight. About the width of my finger, it's offset. Same thing, look at the gaps right here. Look at the gap here. It's ridiculous build quality, and I feel like they intended it to be like this all along. Inside the engine, well, when was the last time you saw something that easy to work on? Big labeled coolants, one big hose, there's your oil on top. Super easy. Dang, that looks like a distributor. Clean and simple. Around the back, same thing. Big bumper, plastic cover right here, but this is not damped, just drops down. We've got a bed liner in here. Let's see if it'll hold a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So I'm getting a measurement, wall to wall, 53 inches. Length, 71, so it's a 6-foot bed. So yeah, sit the plywood on top of the wheel wells, hang it out a little bit, strap it in, 4x8 sheet of plywood. This is the way trucks were meant to be. Gosh, I wish they still built stuff like this. But being a more modern truck, I think the taillights have been changed here, you can tell. No fancy steps. This isn't damped. It doesn't have a flippy, foldy step to get into it. It's just a legitimate truck. And look how reasonably high it is. Bumper height, 2 feet, 24 inches. Top, 4 feet. The best part is, I could almost reach into the bottom of it. Now, being 20-some odd years old, you've got, some fading here, a little cracking here, but look at this. There's a good old-fashioned stick your key in it, a handle that actually moves. Inside, well, it's a little disappointing, but look at this. It's a step in height. Modern trucks, like the new Ranger, I've got to hop into it because of the length of my legs. Now, inside, well, it's 90s Ford, honestly. And this is the part that really lets me down. It's perfectly functional, but cheap plastic all over, with cushy cheap plastic, and then with cheap black plastic. Roll your own windows, lock your own doors. There's no anything here really to break. Some things I don't like about it on the dash. Number one, the way it's molded, and you end up with these insets right here for the light selector. It always looks super, super cheap to me. But come on inside with me. All right, we're gonna leave the door open because it's hotter than heck right now. This is what I'm talking about. They molded the plastic and then just left little inserts here. Always looks super cheap. It works fine. It just looked cheap. All across, it's somewhat soft. It's like hard plastic on top of something soft underneath it. Just big cutouts, more cheap plastic, That's handy right there with a column-mounted shifter. Obviously, a replacement stereo in here, but you end up with a little cubby underneath it. Clear, but kind of far away. Would have been so much to bring that out a little bit. Just the ergonomics here. Ford has come a long way. I really like Fords. I respect their trucks, but the 90s were nasty, and I didn't like this truck. I actually preferred, say, the Dakota at the time, and part of it is just, look at the fit on that plastic right there. Look at the gap right there. Look at the gap. Just, quality was indifferent, but the one that bothered me the most, and I've been waiting 30 years to talk about this, is that seam right there. This, to me, personifies what was wrong with Ford. Okay? Now, bear with me here. You buy this truck, and the gauges are really clear. I like it. It's got, look at this. It's got good leg room. You know, headrests, adjustable seats. It's got, look at this. Look at how much headroom. But then when they made the dash, they just totally cheaped out. And this is the part that bothers me. So they've got this piece of the dash, and they've got this inset right here around the gauges with another piece right here. And they put a seam that's kind of hidden back there under the eyelid. But they carry that seam right here and then a right angle. And once I saw that, when I test drove one of these back in the probably late 90s, honestly, early 2000s, I could never unsee it. That seam in my eye line absolutely drove me up the water. Up the wall, excuse me, not up the water. And then look, the plastic flexes. The downfall of this is that when they canceled it, it was because of declining sales. And it was because it was crude compared to its competition. And that's why. And instead of investing in a new one, they decided to just cancel the whole thing. And it's a major shame because this is a solid, good, reliable work truck, commuting truck, off-road truck. They made a version of this for whatever you wanted to do. Let's get it on the road. All right, let's get this thing on the road. Now, it's amazing how small it is. The owner warned me there is a warning in here. I thought it was going to be a light, not a noise. So I apologize if you can hear that. But this car makes you realize how big modern stuff is. You know, the seats are awfully flat. They aren't very supportive at all. They feel more like work truck seats. But look, this is the perfect height. And while this distance is pretty okay for me and my elbow, this feels really, really tight right here. It's small, but that's what we miss. You know, the extra space here would be nice from the extra cab, right? But it's not bad. It's just a truck. And that's what we miss, right? I think that's drive. I don't know. We miss trucks that are like trucks. You know, you can hear the engine. You feel the steering. It's noisy. It's mechanical. I mean, that's what people wanted to move away from. That's why these didn't sell as well, and why the Japanese manufacturers in a lot of cases did better with their trucks, because they were just more refined. They felt more car-like. This is very coarse and gritty and mechanical. I mean, you feel like you're driving it. It has no sense of steering at all. No feel of the road. No, we're not going to try to make that. You know, for some reason, the turn signal is way down low. It's much lower than you would expect. But overall, it's not bad. It's got more space than you would think, at least front to back. Side to side, it's just tight. You know, sitting here at the stoplight, I've got to lean down to actually see the stoplight. So I think this goes forward. I think it's the space you've got here to the glass. This line could have been pulled back a little more. All right, unleash the 4-cylinder power. Wow, that's slow. That is so slow. Unbelievably slow. All right. Whip it into the turn. All right, decent turn radius, I'll admit. I expected it to be huge, but that was pretty good. Give it some gas. 45. It's a 55 zone. Oh my gosh. Oh wow, this is a time capsule. It feels nothing like a modern truck. It feels like the back half is doing completely different things than the front half. The suspension's banging, but you're not really sure what's going on. The whole thing just kind of shakes a little bit like a wet puppy. There is so much noise that comes in. Now, actually, at these speeds, I'm doing 35. It's not that bad, but it's building and it's building. into just a racket. Oh, good. We just got a top gear at 50. I'm not flooring it right now. I'm kind of gently on this thing, but there's this endless drone from the engine. I'll tell you what, as critical as I'm being, except for the steering feel, because I'm not sure that what I'm doing to the wheel is having a lot of input on the tires themselves. This drives, I mean, at the helm, this is driving a lot like like a 70s Oldsmobile. But this feels, for all the world, like a Toyota Tacoma to me. The smaller ones, it's missing a little something, but the droning engine, the racket, and the complete lack of acceleration, this makes it feel a lot like a Toyota did. Except I think the Toyota just felt a little more buttoned down. Brakes are not bad. Not bad. Good feel. Really, really good feel on them. And then they just kind of go mushy and hard. Interesting experience right there. Now, sitting at a stoplight, it's perfectly fine. The engine, you get a rumble and a little shake. You can kind of feel it through your butt. You can kind of feel the bum. You can kind of feel it through the steering wheel. The engine does a good job of turning fuel into noise. I will tell it that, with some vibration thrown in just for some flavor. You could set a martini on the seat and mix it. Haha, we got a green light. Again, that's a surprisingly good turning radius. I'm a little surprised. But the acceleration, man, I understand why they offered a V6 in this. 4 cylinders have come a long way, and especially in trucks. It just doesn't want to hurry. I mean, this feels, now it is a base level one, this feels like a work truck, honestly. This is the kind of thing, if you've got a plumbing business or a carpentry business, you buy one of these and drive it for 20 years, beating the heck out of it in the back. You're not rushing anywhere, you're cruising along and you want to get as thrifty as you can. But it bobs, it weaves, it jukes, it jives, and there's no real feel of anything except for bumps. The seats, although they're flat, they do feel thin. Once you get settled in, they're not bad. There's an ever so slight lumbar support, just a little bit. You're not going to go racing in this thing, but that's not the intention. The Ford Ranger is a super cool truck that feels like it comes from another age. Trucks have come so far since this was built, since this was introduced, and this was a major renovation of the Ranger project when it was introduced. They changed the suspension, they stiffened the front end, they did a bunch of stuff to make this what it is, and it was better than the previous ones. But today it feels like it comes from a different time, because it does. Trucks today are more car-like, more refined, more loaded with technology, comfortable seats, leather, better quality materials, better quality construction. But they also got huge. And that turns a lot of us off. So I have to answer those two questions. First is, would I recommend this to others? And two, would I be proud to own one? Would I recommend this to others? Now, the answer is probably not, but that would be the same answer if you were looking at any 1998 pickup truck. You don't know what you're going to get. Me saying no is not a knock on the Ranger. It's not a knock on this particular truck. It's a knock on that mid-90s product. This is a really good example of where I think Ford went wrong in the 90s. They came out with some innovative stuff. They came out with some cool stuff. They had some okay sales, but the quality of the materials, the quality of construction, the design decisions that were made, trying to make this look a little bit more like an F-150, keep that familial resemblance, it just doesn't work. You know, not offering a 4-door version, although I think they did once at the end, or overseas. I think they did offer one overseas. Just the 90s Ford were lost in a lot of ways, and this truck kind of represents that. But would I recommend a S10 or a Mazda or a Dakota from that time period? No, I wouldn't. This truck actually runs fine, drives fine, it's got a lot of miles on it. It is slow. I don't think it's very fuel efficient. There's no sense of road feel. It bangs, it wallows, but it feels cool because it's tactile. That's the word I'm looking for here. It's gritty. It feels mechanical, and I really love it for that reason. But no, anything from the 90s in a truck, I don't think I would really recommend it. Would I be proud to own one? No. I think the answer is kind of the same. If I had a bunch of land and I needed a beat up old pickup truck that I trusted to throw hay in the back of it or feed in the back of it and drive it somewhere, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think this would probably be one of the top two choices for me. But the chances of finding a Ranger or any of its competitors in great shape where you'd want to drive it, say, on a daily basis, no. And I definitely think I would avoid the four-cylinder. But yeah, under the right conditions, I'd own one. Under the right conditions, this is my first or second choice for compact pickup trucks from the era. But overall, no. It's amazing how far trucks have come. And they had a long way to come, too. Thanks for watching, guys.